There you go. And what would you say in terms of, I mean, again, there's so many videos out there now with YouTube and all the other video hosting sites that are up there continuously. There's a stream, a current of new videos coming out all the time. Would you say that along with new videos and so forth, there has to follow along some kind of eyewitness or some kind of testimony in order to even make it valid? Or do you have some kind of I guess easy way on how you validate all these new videos that are coming out, Kevin?
In today's world, where every teenager has at his fingertips or her fingertips basically a Hollywood studio and editing bay, can make a very dramatic video that is nearly inexplicable. In fact, Russ Estes, who was a good friend of mine, had a huge editing bay, and he made one of these videos to show me how easy it was. But he made sure the UFO in it was so incredibly animated that no one would take it for real in case somebody stumbled onto it. But he showed me how easy it was to do this. So in today's world, we need to have not only the videotape or the video record of it, but we also have to have some sort of independent corroboration, some independent witnesses from those separated from those who made the footage. And if we had the footage from 2 or 3 angles, then we'd have a wonderful record, because then we could do a lot of things with the analysis of the videos, given where they were when they took them. So we could triangulate, get an idea of distance, get an idea of size, get an idea of speed, something that would be very, very important to us. Back in the 50s, when the Montana movie was made, for example, you couldn't do that on your home computer. You had to have, in essence, a Hollywood studio to be able to fake something like that. So in that arena, you can say, well, that's a very credible piece of film, even though we only have 2 witnesses involved in it. In today's world, we've got to have much more, and we've got to be able to corroborate it through outside and independent sources. I think in scientific investigation, we call that multiple chains of evidence. So we have one chain which would be the eyewitness testimony, and one chain would be the videotape, and one chain would be the analysis of the tape. And if it left some kind of a trace on the ground, that would be a third chain of evidence. And to build the perfect UFO case, we're going to have those multiple chains of evidence to get there. One person coming forward with a tape or a DVD of a UFO in today's world is not going to do it, simply because that is very easily faked today. We've got to have those multiple chains of evidence to make it a viable case.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of talks of disclosure today, and it has been for a while, though, and obviously, same as it ever was in that regard, nothing seems to be happening. I just want to get your take on this in terms of if you ever think that there will be some kind of official disclosure taking place from government officials, military, or something of the ilk. And of course, this dovetails a little bit with MJ12 that we're going to go into here a little bit later. But in terms of official disclosure coming from the authorities, so to speak, do you think that that's something that ever will happen, Kevin?
I think it's going to be precipitated by some event. There's going to be some UFO-related event that's going to precipitate disclosure, something they cannot control. That being said, the idea of disclosure goes back to the 1950s, and there's actually rumors, or were rumors, or have been rumors. There's been discussion that the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, not the latest version, but the 1950 version by Robert Wise starring Michael Rennie, was their first attempt to move toward the disclosure by showing the aliens as sort of our benevolent big brothers, if you will. And that was going to lead to the government coming out with, and when I say government, the U.S. government coming out saying, well, yes, this is what we found about UFOs, this is what we know about flying saucers. And since that time, there have been discussions of disclosure time and time again. The J. Allen Hynek Center for UFO Studies, the people there, Mark Roediger, Don Schmidt, and those guys have told me that at one point around the time that the Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, that there was a call into the Senate that said disclosure is at hand. Dr. Hynek, you need to go down to the studio. They'll be waiting for you because we're going to do disclosure here, and we'd like to have your take on it. And Hynek went down there, and of course the disclosure never came about. So this idea of disclosure has been coming about, or been talked about for quite a long time. The problem is, and you have to get into the military mindset to kind of understand this and how it works in the classification field, where I investigate a UFO sighting, I classify it. Now, I control that specific information. The aliens, of course, can land at any time they want and disprove what I'm saying, that there's no such thing. But the military mindset is such that we're going to classify this until such time as that position becomes untenable. In the 1960, I think it was, President Eisenhower said that we are not flying U-2 aircraft over the Soviet Union for purposes of spying. It doesn't happen. And they denied this, even though they knew they had lost a U-2, and they knew that the pilot might have been captured, but they were denying that this was taking place, even though they knew it was. And I think that's kind of where we are with the UFO field. The government, the U.S. government, the British government, the Swedish government, the government seem to be saying, well, there's nothing to this. It does not impact our national security. And they can keep saying that until the aliens prove otherwise. And that strategy has worked from 1947 till today. So it's worked for more than 60 years. And that's the military mindset. You don't worry about what the other guy can do. You worry about what you can control. You control what you can control and hope for the best.
And you do that in order to have that control, to possess that control, so to speak, I guess, then in one way. Because as a follow-up question to that, I kind of want to ask you why you think the reason would be to hold it back. Are we potentially talking about something that is malevolent here, or is there any other reason, do you think, that the official governments don't want to talk openly about this because they simply don't know what's going on yet, and they haven't kind of assessed the situation yet, if you know what I mean?
I believe that the U.S. government knows exactly what's going on, and I believe this because they picked one up in 1947. The Roswell crash was an alien spacecraft. They knew exactly what they had once they got the debris, once they found the craft, once they found the bodies. They knew it was, I believe that at that time their thinking would have been interplanetary as opposed to interstellar, but they knew it was not from this Earth. I believe that the U.S. government was thinking, if we can reverse engineer this, we've now taken a huge step technologically over the rest of the world and our major competitors, which of course at the time would have been the Soviet Union. We don't want to give the Soviet Union this technology. They could control that, and everybody says, well, that doesn't make sense because there could have been a crash somewhere else. Yeah, there could have been, but at that point there hadn't been. They controlled that, and if they can convince people it didn't happen, they don't have to worry about espionage, because who's going to send out an espionage team or spies to look into something that never happened? So they can control the information that way. Why that persists today, I don't understand. In 1947, it kind of made sense because, well, we'd had the ghost rockets in Scandinavia, as you well know, which was a bunch of UFO sightings, that they sent Jimmy Doolittle to investigate to see if there was something to that. Then we have the sightings in 1947 in the United States and then kind of scattered around the world. But people weren't really sure what was going on. Well, Roswell told them what was going on, but it happened in the United States. It happened in an environment that the government could control. Had the object fallen near New York City or Washington, D.C., they could have never controlled it. But if it fell in the middle of New Mexico in a very desolate area, and the stuff was taken to a military town, which could in essence control the media, which they did. And so the secret persisted from that point on. Why it persists today, I don't know, because we're much more sophisticated. We're involved in searches for extrasolar planets. There was a discussion in National Geographic